The notification arrived on a Tuesday, which should have been my first warning. Nothing good ever happens on a Tuesday, especially when you're elbow deep in the guts of a malfunctioning waste recycler on Mining Station Delta 9. The message floated in my augmented vision, its official Galactic Registry seal making my stomach drop before I even read the contents. Daniel Cross, I muttered to myself, wiping grease on my already filthy coveralls. You are hereby informed that you have inherited lunar installation Helion 3 from your maternal grandfather, Kixa Theta of the Zorathian Confederacy. I had to read it 3 times before the words made sense. My grandfather. The alien grandfather my mother mentioned exactly once before changing the subject. The one who apparently thought sending birthday cards across light years was too much effort, but leaving me an entire moon base was perfectly reasonable. Hey, Cross, my supervisor's voice crackled through the comm. Break time's over. That recycler won't fix itself. Actually, Marcus, I said, a grin spreading across my face. I quit. Turns out I'm lunar royalty now. The silence that followed was worth the 3 years of abuse I'd taken from that man. I packed my meager belongings into a single duffel bag, downloaded my final paycheck, and caught the next shuttle to Transit Hub Alpha, where I'd need to transfer to a lunar transport. The hub was its usual chaos of species, languages, and smells that no amount of air filtration could quite eliminate. I'd been there exactly 10 minutes when I saw her. She was sitting at the counter of Joe's Cosmic Coffee, the only place in the hub that served actual Earth coffee, instead of that synthetic swill everyone else peddled. Her skin had that subtle blue-green tinge that marked her as having non-human ancestry, but her features were sharp and undeniably attractive in that way that made you wonder exactly which species had contributed to her genetic makeup. She was reading something on a holopad, occasionally sipping from a cup that steamed with what smelled like dark roast. I'm not usually the type to approach strangers, but something about inheriting a moon base had given me a temporary boost of confidence. Plus, I figured if I was going to die on a haunted space station in a week, I might as well take some chances. Is this seat taken? I asked, gesturing to the stool next to her. She looked up, and I was struck by her eyes, which were a shade of violet that definitely wasn't standard human issue. That depends, she said, her voice carrying a slight accent I couldn't place. Are you going to try to sell me something? Recruit me for your religion? Or explain why humans are the superior species? None of the above, I said, sliding onto the stool. Though I might bore you with stories about waste recycler maintenance if you're not careful. A small smile played at the corner of her mouth. Waste recyclers. How romantic. Former waste recycler technician, I corrected, signaling Joe for a coffee. As of about an hour ago, I'm moving up in the world, or down, depending on how you look at it. I just inherited a moon base. She raised an eyebrow, which I noticed had a slight natural ridge to it. Definitely some interesting genetics there. Helion 3. The coffee cup Joe had just handed me stopped halfway to my mouth. How did you... Lucky guess, she said, returning to her holopad. It's the only lunar installation that's changed hands recently. Plus, you have that look. What look? The look of someone who has no idea what they've gotten themselves into. I laughed, though it came out more nervous than I intended. That obvious. Huh. Well, at least I'll have an interesting week before the ghosts get me. Ghosts. She tilted her head, studying me with those violet eyes. You haven't heard, apparently. Helion 3 is haunted, cursed, possessed by angry moon spirits. Take your pick. The betting pool at Delta 9 gave me a week before I either die or run screaming back to civilization. And you're still going, I shrugged. It's mine, apparently. My grandfather left it to me, and I never even met the guy. Figure I owe it to him to at least check it out. Plus, anything beats fixing waste recyclers. She closed her holopad and turned to face me fully. Your grandfather was Kixatheta. Now it was my turn to be surprised. You knew him. I knew of him. He was well respected among the Confederacy. Also notoriously eccentric, even by Zorathian standards. Great. I inherited a moon base from the alien equivalent of a crazy cat lady. She laughed, and it was a genuine sound that made something in my chest do a little flip. Something like that, though I heard he preferred collecting ancient weapons to cats. Even better, a haunted moon base full of alien weapons. What could go wrong? I took a long sip of coffee, enjoying the burn. I'm Daniel, by the way. Daniel Cross. Naira, she said, extending her hand. Her grip was firm, warmer than I expected. Naira Kale. Well, Naira, since you seem to know about my grandfather and his moon base, any advice for someone about to walk into what's probably a death trap? She seemed to consider this for a moment. Don't trust the shadows. That's ominous. You want ominous. The last 5 people who tried to claim Helion-3 didn't last 3 days. One of them was found in the main corridor, aged about 30 years in a matter of hours. Another was discovered in the communications room, speaking in a language that doesn't exist. The third one. Okay, I get it. Bad things happen there. I finished my coffee in one gulp. But here's the thing. I've spent the last 3 years up to my elbows in human waste and toxic chemicals. I've been shot at by pirates, nearly spaced by a hull breach, and once had to eat nothing but protein paste for 2 months because Marcus forgot to order real food. If some moon ghosts want to take me out, they're going to have to get in line. Naira smiled again, wider this time. You know what I think I like you, Daniel Cross. You're either very brave or very stupid. Why not both? I stood up, tossing a credit chip to Joe. My transport leaves in an hour. If I survive the week, I'll send you a postcard. From a haunted moon base. The gift shop might be limited, but I'll see what I can do. I hesitated, then added, unless you want to come see for yourself, I mean. I just inherited the place. I could probably use someone who knows something about it. Plus, you seem like you can handle yourself, and if I'm going to die, I'd rather not do it alone. She stood as well, and I realized she was taller than me by a good 2 inches. That's quite an offer from someone you just met. What can I say? Inheriting moon bases makes me impulsive. Plus, you haven't tried to kill me yet, which puts you ahead of most people I meet. The day is young, she said, but she was smiling. As it happens, I'm heading to Helion-3 myself. Really, why would anyone voluntarily go there? Let's just say I have a professional interest in the place. She gathered her things, slinging a bag over her shoulder that looked suspiciously military grade. Shall we travel together, safety in numbers and all that? Sure. But if you're planning to rob me, I should warn you that all I have is a moon base that may or may not be trying to kill people. Noted. Though if we're being honest with each other, I should probably mention that I'm not a coffee shop regular. I was waiting for you. I stopped walking. Okay, that's creepy. Your inheritance claim was filed with the Galactic Registry 3 hours ago. The transport to Helion-3 was booked immediately after. It wasn't hard to figure out where you'd be. And you're interested in me because Kixatheta of the Zorathian Confederacy doesn't leave his estate to random humans. There's something special about you, Daniel Cross, even if you don't know it yet. The only special thing about me is my ability to fix any recycler in under an hour. We'll see. The transport to Helion-3 was an old Meridian-class shuttle that had seen better decades. The pilot was a grizzled Kandorian whose scales had faded from bright green to a dull olive, and he looked at us like we were already dead when we mentioned our destination. Helion 3. He made a sound that might have been a laugh or a death rattle. Hope you said your goodbyes. Everyone's so cheerful about this place, I muttered, securing my duffel in the overhead compartment. Just being realistic, the pilot said. I'll wait exactly 1 standard hour after we dock. You're not back by then. I'm leaving. I don't care if you own the place or not. Afraid of ghosts? Naira asked, settling into the seat next to mine with a grace that suggested she'd done this many times before. I'm afraid of whatever killed Commander Reeves last month, the pilot shot back. Found him frozen solid in the greenhouse. In the greenhouse, you know how hot those things are kept. Whatever froze him did it from the inside out. Cheerful, I said again, buckling in as the engines hummed to life. The journey to the moon took 6 hours, during which Naira and I talked about everything except why she was really interested in Helion 3. She told me about growing up on New Tasmania, a colony world where her human mother had met her Altarian father. I told her about Earth, about the smell of real rain and the taste of actual hamburgers, not the synthetic stuff they served in space. You miss it, she observed, as I described the view from my family's apartment in New Chicago. Every day, but there's nothing for me there anymore. My parents died in a transport accident 5 years ago. My sister, well, she made it clear she didn't want a waste recycler technician embarrassing her at her fancy corporate events. Family can be complicated, Naira said softly. Is that why you're really here, family? She was quiet for a moment, looking out at the stars streaking by. In a way, my mother served with your grandfather years ago. She always said he was the smartest being she'd ever met. Also, the most paranoid. Paranoid how? He believed someone was hunting his species, the Zorathians. I mean, they're nearly extinct now. Fewer than 1,000 left in the entire galaxy. And he thought hiding on a moon base would protect him. Not hiding. Preparing. Before I could ask what she meant, the pilot's voice crackled over the comm. Coming up on Luna, Helion 3 will be visible in 30 seconds. I pressed my face to the window like a kid, watching as Earth's moon grew larger. Then I saw it, and my breath caught. Helion 3 wasn't just a moon base. It was a small city. The structure sprawled across several square kilometers of lunar surface, a maze of domes and tunnels that gleamed silver in the Earthlight. At its center was a spire that had to be at least 100 meters tall, crowned with what looked like a massive crystal that pulsed with a faint blue light. That's... I couldn't finish the sentence. Impressive, Naira suggested. Terrifying, I corrected. How did one person own all this? Your grandfather wasn't just anyone, she said. He was the last of the Zorathian Royal Guard. This was their emergency retreat, built centuries ago when they first made contact with humanity. And he left it to me, a waste recycler tech from Earth. Like I said, there must be something special about you. The shuttle banked, approaching a docking bay that opened automatically as we neared. The pilot muttered something in Kandorian that I was pretty sure was a prayer. Remember, he said as we touched down. 1 hour. After that, you're on your own. The docking bay was pristine, which should have been my second warning. A place that had been empty for months should have had dust, debris, something to show the passage of time. But the floors were polished to a mirror shine, and the lights came on in sequence as we walked, as if the station was waking up to greet us. Creepy, I said, my voice echoing in the vast space. Efficient, Naira corrected, but I noticed her hand had moved to rest on something at her hip. A weapon. Probably. The airlock cycled, and we stepped into the main corridor. The walls were lined with a material I didn't recognize, something that seemed to shift between transparent and opaque depending on the angle. Through them, I could see other corridors, other rooms, like looking into an infinite mirror. "Welcome, Daniel Cross." The voice came from everywhere and nowhere, filling the corridor with a sound that was almost but not quite human. "Who's there?" I called out, trying to keep the tremor out of my voice. "I am the custodian of this installation. You may call me Spectre." Naira and I exchanged glances. "Spectre," I said. "That's not ominous at all. The name was chosen by your predecessor. He found it amusing. My grandfather had a weird sense of humor." "Indeed. He also had specific instructions for your arrival." A section of the wall shimmered and became a screen, showing what was obviously a recording. The being on the screen was tall, at least 7 feet, with skin that seemed to be made of living metal. 4 arms, each ending in hands with too many joints. But the eyes were kind, almost familiar. "Daniel," the recording said, and hearing my name in that alien voice sent chills down my spine. "If you are watching this, then I am dead, and you have come to claim your inheritance. I know we never met, and for that, I apologize. Your mother thought it best to keep you away from my world, and perhaps she was right. But blood calls to blood, and you are here now." The image flickered, and for a moment, I could have sworn I saw something else standing behind my grandfather, a shadow that didn't match his shape. "Hellion 3 is more than a base," he continued. "It is a fortress, a laboratory, and a prison. Within these walls are wonders and horrors in equal measure. You will be tested, grandson. The station will test you, as will those who seek to claim what is now yours." "What others?" I asked, though I knew the recording couldn't hear me. As if in answer, an alarm began to blare. Red lights bathed the corridor, and Spectre's voice returned. "Urgent now. Multiple ships detected on approach vector. Configuration matches known hostile forces. Helix Dominion signatures confirmed." "Helix!" Naira's face had gone pale, the blue-green tinge more pronounced. "They're not supposed to be in this sector." "Friends of yours?" I asked. "The opposite." She pulled what was definitely a weapon from her hip, a sleek thing that hummed with barely contained energy. "They're a corporate military consortium. They take what they want and destroy what they can't have." "And they want my moon base." "They want what your grandfather was protecting." Which is, before she could answer, the lights went out, in the darkness. I heard my grandfather's voice one more time, no longer a recording but something else, something that seemed to come from the walls themselves. "Welcome home, Daniel. Try to survive the night." Then the screaming started. It wasn't human screaming, which somehow made it worse. It was the sound of metal tearing, of space itself being rent apart. Emergency lighting kicked in, bathing everything in a sickly green glow. And I saw them, shadows, moving independently of any light source, sliding along the walls like oil. Where they touched, the pristine surfaces aged decades in seconds, rust and decay spreading like a virus. "Run!" Naira grabbed my arm, pulling me down the corridor. "Run where this is my first time here. Spectre," she shouted. "Safe room." Now, arrows appeared on the floor, pulsing blue in the green light. We followed them, the shadows pursuing, reaching out with tendrils that made my skin crawl, just looking at them. We burst through a door that slammed shut behind us, multiple locks engaging with satisfying clicks. The room beyond was small, cramped, filled with screens showing different parts of the station. On one, I could see ships landing in the docking bay, soldiers in black armor pouring out, weapons raised. "Helix Dominion Corporate Security," Naira said, breathing hard. "They're here for the heart." "The what?" "The power source your grandfather discovered. It's not just energy, Daniel. It's the compressed life force of an entire species. The last remnant of the void touched." The void touched. The shadows you just saw, they were a species that existed partially in our dimension, partially in somewhere else. Your grandfather found their heart, the last of their essence. He's been keeping it contained here, preventing anyone from weaponizing it. And now it's mine to protect. If you can survive long enough to claim it fully, yes. On the screens, I watched the Helix soldiers encounter their first shadow. The man in front aged 50 years in 5 seconds, his armor rusting and crumbling around him. The others opened fire, but their weapons did nothing to the darkness that flowed toward them. "They're going to die," I said. "Yes," Naira agreed. Unless what?" She turned to me, those violet eyes deadly serious. "Unless you accept your inheritance fully, the station will only protect its rightful owner." "How do I do that?" "Blood." Spectre's voice filled the room. "The locks are genetic. A small sample will confirm your identity and transfer full control." A panel opened in the wall, revealing what looked like an ancient stone altar, completely out of place in the high-tech surroundings. At its center was a depression, stained dark with what I really hoped wasn't blood. "You want me to bleed on the creepy altar? Unless you want Helix to get the heart and use it to power weapons that could devastate entire systems." "Yes." On the screens, more soldiers were falling, but more kept coming, and some were making progress, using some kind of energy shields that held the shadows at bay temporarily. "If I do this, what happens?" "You become the master of Helion 3, Spectre said. All its defenses, all its secrets, all its burdens. And if I don't, then we all die here tonight." I looked at Naira, who was watching me with an expression I couldn't read. "You knew this would happen. You were waiting for me because you knew." "I suspected," she admitted. "My mission was to ensure the heart didn't fall into the wrong hands, by any means necessary, including killing me. If I had to, but I'm hoping it won't come to that. I've grown rather fond of you in the last few hours. You've known me for less than a day. Sometimes that's all it takes." Another alarm blared. On one screen, I saw soldiers planting charges on a blast door 3 levels down. "Decide quickly. Daniel Cross," Spectre urged. "They will breach the inner sanctum in minutes." I pulled out my multi-tool, the one thing that had kept me alive through 3 years of dangerous repair work. The blade was sharp enough, and before I could think too hard about it, I drew it across my palm. Blood welled up, darker than it should have been in the green light. I held my hand over the altar and let it drip onto the stone. The effect was immediate. The altar flared with light, blue-white and blinding. I felt something surge through me, like electricity but older, deeper. Every nerve ending fired at once, and I saw everything. The station laid out in my mind like a 3-dimensional map. Every corridor, every room, every system. The shadows weren't hostile invaders, but security protocols, ancient and hungry. The heart wasn't just a power source, but a responsibility, a trust. And I saw the Helix soldiers, 43 of them, spread throughout my station. My station. "Get out," I said, and my voice echoed through every speaker in Helion 3. "You have 30 seconds to return to your ships and leave, or I will let the shadows have you." "This is Commander Walsh of Helix Dominion Corporate Security," a voice responded. "This installation is being seized under Salvage Rights Code 7. Stand down or be terminated." 20 seconds, I said. "You're bluffing. You're just some nobody from Earth. You don't have the spine to kill us all." I looked at Naira, who nodded slightly. 10 seconds. "Breach the door," Walsh commanded. "Time's up." I didn't have to do anything. The station knew my will, and the shadows responded. On the screens, darkness flowed like water, washing over the soldiers who hadn't made it back to the ships. They aged, decayed, and crumbled to dust in moments. Only 15 made it back to their shuttles. I let them go, watching as they fled toward their carrier ship waiting in orbit. "You'll regret this," Walsh's voice crackled through the comm. "Helix Dominion doesn't forget we'll be back." "And I'll be waiting," I said, cutting the connection. The green emergency lights faded, replaced by warm white. The shadows retreated to wherever they went when not needed. And suddenly, Hellion 3 felt less like a haunted death trap and more like home. "That was impressive," Naira said, and there was something new in her voice. Respect. Maybe, or something warmer. "That was terrifying," I corrected, looking at my palm. The cut was already healing, far faster than it should have. "What's happening to me?" "The station is bonding with you," Spectre explained. "Your grandfather underwent the same process. In time, you will be more than human. You will be the guardian of Hellion 3. I just wanted to inherit a normal moon base. Maybe with a nice view of Earth and a working coffee machine." Naira laughed, and the sound filled the small room. "Nothing about you is normal. Daniel Cross, I knew it the moment I saw you." "You mean 5 hours ago?" "Has it only been 5 hours? Feels like longer." She was standing close to me now, close enough that I could smell her hair. It smelled like ozone and something floral I couldn't identify. "So what happens now?" I asked. Now you learn what your grandfather really left you. This is just the beginning. Daniel, the heart is only one of Hellion 3's secrets." "How many secrets are we talking about?" "Your grandfather was here for 60 years. He was a very busy man. Great. A lifetime of deadly surprises." "But you won't be alone," she said. And there was a question in it. "You're staying. If you'll have me." My mission was to secure the heart, but I think guarding it alongside its new owner might be a better long-term solution. "Is that the only reason?" she smiled. That same small smile from the coffee shop. "No, but it's the one I'm admitting to right now." Before I could respond, every screen in the room lit up with incoming messages. The Galactic Registry, confirming my ownership. The Lunar Authority, demanding an explanation for the light show. 3 different news networks, asking for interviews about the incident at Hellion 3. "Looks like your quiet inheritance just became very public," Naira observed. "So much for lasting a week in obscurity." "Oh, I think you'll last much longer than a week." She moved toward the door, then paused. "Coming. We should probably tell that pilot he can leave before he has a nervous breakdown." I followed her out of the safe room, into the corridors of my moon base, my haunted, dangerous, completely insane moon base. "Hey, Naira." "Yes." "When I said if I survived the week I'd send you a postcard." "Yes. I think I'll deliver it in person instead." She laughed again, and we walked together through the halls of Hellion 3, while shadows danced at the edges of our vision, and the heart of an extinct species pulsed with power deep below our feet. It had been one hell of a first day. Something told me tomorrow would be even more interesting. Chapter 2. The Price of Inheritance. The next 3 days passed in a blur of discoveries, each more unsettling than the last. Hellion 3 was like an onion made of mysteries, and every layer we peeled back revealed 2 more underneath. Naira had taken to calling it aggressive architecture, because the station seemed to rearrange itself when we weren't looking, opening new passages and sealing others according to some pattern neither of us could figure out. "Your grandfather was either a genius or completely insane," she said on the morning of day 4, staring at a door that definitely hadn't been there the night before. "Why not both?" I replied, running my hand along the door's surface. It was warm to the touch, pulsing slightly like a heartbeat. Through my connection to the station, I could feel it wanting to open, eager to show me something. "Spectre, What's behind this door? Laboratory Complex 7, the AI responded, its voice emanating from the walls themselves. Your predecessor spent considerable time there during his final months. Doing what? I am not authorized to share that information until you have fully integrated with the station's systems. Current integration, 32%. I'd been trying not to think too hard about the integration process. Every hour, I felt less human and more something else. My reflexes were faster, my vision sharper, and sometimes I knew things I shouldn't know, like the exact temperature in every room or the number of microscopic fractures in the hull plating. We should check it out, Naira said, already reaching for the door panel. Wait, I caught her hand, and for a moment, we both froze. Her skin was warmer than mine now, a reminder that whatever was happening to me was pulling me away from normal human physiology. The station's trying to tell me something. It's excited, nervous, I can't quite read it. You're talking about it like it's alive. Isn't it? I asked, genuinely uncertain. Sometimes I swear I can feel it breathing. Before she could answer, Spectre's alert tone filled the corridor. Incoming transmission from Helix Dominion flagship Redemption through Prophet. Commander Walsh requests direct communication. Of course he does, I muttered. Put him through, but just audio. Walsh's voice crackled through the speakers, dripping with the kind of false courtesy that made my teeth itch. Mr. Cross, I hope you've had time to reconsider your position. My employers are prepared to make you a very generous offer for Helion 3. Not interested. You haven't heard the offer yet. 50 million credits, a executive position with Helix, and safe passage to any world in the galaxy. Still not interested. That's unfortunate, because my employers have also authorized me to share some information that might change your mind. We know what your grandfather was really doing here. Mr. Cross, we know about Project Synthesis. Naira and I exchanged glances. Neither of us had heard that term before. Never heard of it, I said, trying to keep my voice level. Walsh chuckled, a sound like grinding gears. Of course not. He wouldn't have told you. Too dangerous. But we have the research notes from his partner, Dr. Marcus Stern. Fascinating reading. Did you know your grandfather was trying to create a hybrid species, part human, part Zarathian, part void? Touched. My blood ran cold. That's impossible. Is it you've been feeling strange lately, haven't you? The integration process isn't just connecting you to the station, Mr. Cross. It's changing you on a genetic level. In a few weeks, you won't even be human anymore. You'll be something new, something your grandfather designed. You're lying. Am I? Ask your companion. Ask Miss Kale why she's really there. Ask her about her orders from the Galactic Council's Special Operations Division. The line went dead, leaving us in a silence that felt heavier than the moon's weak gravity should have allowed. Naira, I said quietly. She wouldn't meet my eyes. It's not what you think. Then explain it to me. She took a deep breath, and when she looked up, those violet eyes were filled with something that might have been regret. I am with Special Operations. My mission was to assess the threat level of Helion 3 and neutralize it if necessary. Neutralize? You mean destroy? If necessary, yes. But Daniel, you've been lying to me this whole time. Not lying, just not telling you everything. I laughed, but there was no humor in it. That's a pretty fine distinction. My orders changed the moment you took control of the station. You're not a threat, Daniel. You're trying to protect something, just like your grandfather was. I can see that now. And if you hadn't seen that, if I'd been the wrong kind of person. She pulled something from her pocket, a small device that hummed with barely contained energy. Neural disruptor. Would have shut down your connection to the station instantly. Probably would have killed you in the process. And you're showing me this, why? She set the device on the floor and crushed it under her heel. Because I'm choosing a side. Your side, if you'll have me. Before I could respond, the door that had appeared overnight began to open on its own. Beyond it was a laboratory that looked like something out of a fever dream. The walls were covered in equations written in multiple languages, some human, some alien, some that hurt to look at directly. In the center of the room was a containment unit, and inside it. "Is that an embryo?" Naira whispered. It was. But like no embryo I'd ever seen. It pulsed with the same blue light as the heart, deep in the station's core. And as we watched, it seemed to shift between solid and translucent, as if it couldn't decide whether to exist in our dimension or somewhere else. "Project Synthesis," I said, understanding flooding through me via my connection to the station. He wasn't trying to create a new species. He was trying to save 3 dying ones. "What do you mean?" I walked to the containment unit, placing my hand on its surface. Information flowed into my mind. Decades of research compressed into seconds. "The Zarathians are dying out. Barely 1,000 left. Humans are expanding too fast, burning through resources, heading for collapse within centuries. And the void touched, they're already gone, except for the heart." He thought if he could combine all 3, create something that had the best of each species. He was playing God. He was trying to prevent extinction. I turned to face her. And he succeeded. This isn't just an experiment, Naira. It's viable, it's alive, and it's calling to me. "Daniel, don't..." But I was already reaching for the containment unit's release mechanism. The moment my skin made contact, I felt the integration process accelerate. My vision split, showing me the room from multiple angles simultaneously. I could see Naira reaching for me, see myself from her perspective, see the energy patterns flowing through the walls. The embryo pulsed brighter, and I heard my grandfather's voice, not a recording this time, but something imprinted in the station itself. "The child needs both parents. Daniel, you are the father, genetically modified through the integration. But it needs a mother too, someone with the right genetic markers. Someone like..." I looked at Naira. Really looked at her for the first time. The blue-green tinge to her skin, the violet eyes, the way she moved with just slightly too much grace to be fully human. "You're already a hybrid," I said. "Human and Altarian." She nodded slowly. "My mother never told me who my father really was until she was dying. He was part of an early experiment in genetic compatibility. I'm technically impossible, a natural hybrid between 2 species that shouldn't be able to interbreed. That's why you're here, not just for the mission. The station called you here, just like it called me." "That's insane. Is it? Think about it. What are the odds that you'd be waiting for me at that exact coffee shop, that we'd be compatible enough to..." I gestured between us, at the obvious chemistry that had been building since we met. "The station's been matchmaking." "My grandfather was thorough," Spectre interjected, making us both jump. "He calculated probability matrices for 15 years before identifying optimal genetic pairings. You were selected from a list of over 3 million candidates. Miss Kale." "Selected," Naira's voice was rising. "I was selected like breeding stock. Like the potential savior of 3 species," I corrected, though I understood her anger. "But, Naira, listen to me. Whatever brought us together, whatever my grandfather planned, it doesn't change what I feel. These past 4 days, working alongside you, getting to know you, that's real. At least, it is for me." She was quiet for a long moment, staring at the embryo in its containment unit. You feel it too, don't you, the pull? Like the station wants us to? Yeah, I admitted. But I'm not going to do anything you don't want. Grandfather's plan or no plan. You have a choice here. Do I? Because from where I'm standing, it looks like I was manipulated into this from the start. My whole life. Daniel. Every choice that led me here might have been orchestrated. She was right, and we both knew it. The weight of that manipulation hung between us like a physical thing. But before either of us could say more, alarms began blaring throughout the station. Multiple breach detected, Spectre announced. Helix Dominion forces have entered through emergency airlocks on levels 3, 5, and 8. Estimated force strength, 200 soldiers. 200! I ran to the nearest console, pulling up tactical displays. How did they get that many people here without us detecting them? Stealth transports, Naira said, her training taking over despite the emotional turmoil. They must have been positioning them while Walsh was distracting us with his call. On the screens, I could see them spreading through the station like a virus. But something was wrong. They were moving too purposefully, heading for specific locations rather than conducting a general sweep. They know exactly where they're going, I said. They have inside information. Dr. Stern, Naira said grimly. Walsh mentioned him. He must have had access to your grandfather's research. Can the shadows stop them? Negative, Spectre replied. Helix forces are equipped with dimensional stabilizers. The shadow protocols will be minimally effective. Then we need a new plan. I closed my eyes, reaching out through my connection to the station. 32% integration wasn't much, but it would have to be enough. Spectre, can you isolate sections of the station, lock them down individually? Affirmative. But doing so will trap you in Laboratory Complex 7. That's fine. Nira, there's an armory 2 levels down. Can you? I'm not leaving you. I'm not asking you to leave. I'm asking you to arm yourself, then come back and help me defend this position. She hesitated, then nodded. 5 minutes. The moment she left, I turned back to the embryo. All right, grandfather, you set all this up. You must have had contingencies. Show me what you were really planning. The containment unit began to glow brighter, and suddenly, the embryo wasn't alone in there. Words appeared in the air around it, written in light. Synthesis, protocol, emergency activation available. Warning, premature activation will accelerate integration to dangerous levels. Proceed. I could hear fighting in the distance. The shadows might not be fully effective, but they were slowing the Helix forces down, buying us time. Define dangerous levels. Integration will jump to 90% within 1 hour. Physical and psychological changes will be extreme and irreversible. Probability of survival, 63%. 63%. Better odds than I'd had going into most of my repair jobs on Delta 9. And what exactly will this emergency activation do? Full station combat mode. All restrictions lifted. Access to experimental weapon systems. Direct neural interface with all station functions. All restrictions. Images flooded my mind. Weapons that could tear holes in reality. Defense systems that could age an entire army to dust in seconds. And something else. Something my grandfather had called the last resort. The station can move, I breathed. It's not just a base. It's a ship. Correct. Hellion 3 is capable of faster-than-light travel. Destination coordinates have been pre-programmed. Where? Sanctuary. A world prepared by your predecessor. Suitable for synthesis species colonization. Nira burst back through the door, armed with weapons I didn't recognize. Daniel, they've breached level 5. We have maybe 10 minutes before... She stopped, seeing the glowing words around the embryo. What is that? A choice, I said. We can activate the emergency protocol. Turn the station into something even Helix can't handle. But it'll change me. Probably permanently. Or we can try to fight them off conventionally and probably die. What kind of changes? I'll be 90% integrated within an hour. I might not even be recognizably human anymore. She set down the weapons and walked over to me, taking my hands in hers. Do it. Naira. Do it, we'll face whatever comes together. She squeezed my hands. Besides, normal is overrated. I should know. I've never been normal a day in my life. This isn't a joke. I know. But Daniel, in 4 days you've shown me more genuine care than anyone has in years. You gave me a choice when you could have tried to force your grandfather's plan. That means something. Even if we were manipulated into meeting, especially then, we can choose to spite the manipulation, or we can choose to make something real out of it. I choose real. An explosion rocked the station. They were getting closer. Together, I asked. Together. I turned back to the containment unit. Activate synthesis protocol emergency mode. The effect was immediate and overwhelming. Energy surged through me like liquid lightning. My vision exploded into spectrums I didn't know existed. I could feel every circuit, every system, every atom of the station. But more than that, I could feel the heart, the compressed essence of the void touched, and it was singing. Daniel. Nira's voice sounded distant, though she was right beside me. Your eyes. I caught my reflection in the polished surface of the containment unit. My eyes were glowing the same blue as the embryo, and spreading from them were patterns like circuitry, glowing beneath my skin. I'm okay, I said, though my voice had harmonics it hadn't had before. I'm more than okay. I can see everything. The Helix soldiers were 3 corridors away now, but I could feel them like insects crawling on my skin. With a thought, I sealed the passages behind them, trapping them in a section of the station I was about to make very unwelcoming. Gravity manipulation online, I said. Not to Nira, but to the station itself. We were one now, or close enough. In the sealed section, I increased the gravity to 4 times Earth normal. I heard armor cracking, bones breaking, soldiers screaming as they were crushed by their own equipment. Daniel, that's necessary, I finished. They came here to take what isn't theirs, to weaponize the heart. I won't let them. More soldiers were coming, adapting to my tactics. They had gravity compensators now, dimensional stabilizers, even portable shield generators. Walsh had come prepared for war. Fine, I muttered. Let's give him one. I reached deeper into the station systems, finding weapons my grandfather had hidden so well, even Spectre didn't know about them. Reality warpers, temporal distortion fields, something called a causality bomb that I didn't fully understand, but knew would be devastating. Mr. Cross, Walsh's voice echoed through the station. I'm offering you one last chance. Surrender now, and we'll make your death quick. Continue resisting. And I'll personally ensure you watch Miss Kale die slowly before we take you apart piece by piece. Counteroffer, I replied, my voice transmitting through every speaker simultaneously. You have 30 seconds to evacuate your forces before I demonstrate why my grandfather was the last of the Zarathian Royal Guard. Empty threats from a waste recycler playing with toys he doesn't understand. 20 seconds. I began charging the station's main weapon, something my grandfather had simply labeled judgment. Power readings spiked across the board. The lights dimmed as every available joule was redirected. Daniel, Naira said quietly. What are you doing? Ending this. 10 seconds. You're bluffing, Walsh screamed. 5. All units, full assault. Take them now. 0. I fired judgment. The weapon didn't make a sound. There was no dramatic light show, no explosion. One moment. The Helix soldiers were charging our position. The next, they simply weren't. Not dead. Not vaporized, but erased. As if they had never existed in the first place. "What did you do?" Naira whispered. "I removed them from this timeline," I said, the knowledge flowing from the station into my mind. "They're alive, technically. They're just elsewhere. Elsewhen." My grandfather called it merciful execution. They'll live out their lives in a parallel timeline where Helion 3 was never built. That's impossible. A lot of impossible things are possible here. I turned to her, and I could see her flinch slightly at my appearance. The circuit patterns had spread across most of my visible skin now, pulsing in rhythm with my heartbeat. "I'm sorry. I know I look beautiful," she interrupted. "Different, but beautiful. Like looking at a living constellation." Before I could respond, Walsh's voice crackled through the comm one more time. "This isn't over, Cross. Helix Dominion has resources you can't imagine. I cut the transmission and reached out with my enhanced senses. His ship was preparing to leave, along with 3 others that had been hiding in the moon's shadow. I could have destroyed them, but I was tired of death, tired of violence. Instead, I sent them a message, transmitted directly into their navigation computers. Coordinates to a planet on the far side of the galaxy, along with a simple text, "Don't come back." Then, I activated one of my grandfather's more subtle weapons, a virus that would slowly corrupt their navigation systems. They'd make it to the planet safely, but their ships would never fly again. Let them start over, far from here. "It's done," I said, suddenly exhausted. The integration was at 70% now and climbing. My body felt like it was burning and freezing simultaneously. Nira caught me as I stumbled, her arms surprisingly strong. "I've got you." "The embryo," I managed. "It's reacting to the integration." We both looked at the containment unit. The embryo was glowing brighter, pulsing in time with my heartbeat. No, not just mine. Naira's too. Somehow, it had synchronized with both of us. "It's bonding with us," she said, wonder in her voice. "Both of us. Even though we haven't. Genetic proximity is sufficient," Spectre explained. "The embryo recognizes you both as suitable parental templates. It will adapt its development accordingly." "Wait, are you saying we're going to be parents without actually—" "Think of it as adoption," I suggested, managing a weak smile despite the pain. "Very advanced. Sci-fi adoption," Naira laughed, and the sound helped ground me as the integration hit 80%. Only you could make becoming the adoptive parents of a tri-species hybrid sound normal. "Nothing about this is normal." "No," she agreed, helping me sit on a nearby bench. But maybe normal was never the goal. She was right. My grandfather hadn't been trying to preserve the normal. He'd been trying to create something new, something that could survive in a universe that was becoming increasingly hostile to individual species. "The integration's at 85%, I said, feeling my consciousness expanding further. "I can feel other stations, other bases. Nira. He didn't just leave me Helion 3. There's a whole network, dozens of facilities, all waiting for activation. A contingency plan. More than that, a new beginning, places for the synthesis species to grow, to develop, to become whatever they're meant to become. And we're supposed to shepherd them. If we choose to." I looked at her, really looked at her with my enhanced vision. I could see her genetic structure, the delicate balance of human and Altarian DNA that made her unique. And I could see something else, a potential, a compatibility that went beyond what my grandfather had planned. "But it has to be a choice. Your choice." She was quiet for a moment, then moved to the containment unit, placing her hand on its surface. The embryo pulsed brighter, and I heard her gasp. "I can feel it," she said. "Like it's calling to something inside me. Something I didn't know was there." "The maternal protocols," Spectre said. "Your unique genetics make you ideal for nurturing the synthesis species. But activation requires conscious consent. And, if I consent, you will undergo a process similar to Daniel's integration, though less extensive. Approximately 40% integration with the station's biological systems. You would become the mother of the synthesis, as Daniel has become the father." "That's a hell of a title," she said, but she was smiling. "You don't have to," I started. "I know. But Daniel, I've spent my whole life feeling like I didn't belong anywhere. Too human for the Altarians. Too alien for the humans. Maybe this is why. Maybe I was meant to help create a place where beings like us, beings who don't fit in the traditional boxes, can belong. Even if it means changing, becoming something other than what you are now." She turned to me, those violet eyes bright with determination. "I've been changing my whole life. At least this time, I'm choosing the direction." Another alarm sounded, but this one was different. Not a warning, but an announcement. "Integration complete," Spectre said. 90% achieved. Daniel Cross, you are now the full inheritor of the Zorathian legacy. All systems are at your command." I stood, and for the first time since the process began, I felt no pain, only power, controlled and purposeful. The station wasn't just mine, it was me, an extension of my will made manifest in metal and energy. "How do you feel?" Naira asked. "Like I could reshape stars," I admitted. "But also, like I'm still me. Still the waste recycler from Earth who inherited something impossible." "Good. Hold on to that. The human part of you. I mean, it's what I low." She caught herself, color rising in her cheeks. "It's what makes you worth following." I crossed to her in 2 steps, moving faster than human muscles should allow. "You were going to say love. We've known each other 4 days. 4 days in which we've fought off corporate soldiers, discovered a conspiracy spanning decades, and apparently become parents to a new species. That's got to count for something," she laughed. "When you put it like that, Naira Kale, will you help me turn this insane inheritance into something worthwhile? Will you help me build a future for beings who don't belong in the present?" "That's not exactly a romantic proposal. I can try again." "Naira, you're brilliant, deadly, and the only person who can make me laugh while we're actively being shot at. Also, our maybe child seems to like you. Want to raise a tri-species hybrid together while managing a network of secret bases and probably fighting off more corporate armies." "Much better," she said, and kissed me. The moment our lips met, something changed. The embryo flared with light, and I felt Naira's consciousness brush against mine through the station's systems. She gasped, pulling back. "The integration," she breathed. "It's starting. Only if you want it to." She looked at the embryo, at me, at the laboratory around us filled with my grandfather's dreams and plans. Then she smiled, that same small smile from the coffee shop that now felt like a lifetime ago. "Together. Together." She kissed me again, and this time, she didn't pull back when the integration began. I held her as the station's systems reached out, as the biological protocols activated, as she began the transformation that would make her the mother of the synthesis. Somewhere in the depths of Helion 3, the heart of the void touched, pulsed with something that might have been approval. The future my grandfather had envisioned was finally beginning. And despite everything, despite the violence and the manipulation and the impossible choices, I couldn't help but think we were exactly where we were meant to be. Chapter 3. Rising Action. 2 weeks had passed since Naira began her integration, and watching her change was like witnessing evolution in fast forward. The process was gentler than mine had been, more gradual, but no less profound. The blue-green tinge of her skin had deepened, taking on an almost luminescent quality in certain light. Thin lines of bioluminescent patterns had emerged along her arms, different from my circuit-like markings, more organic, like living vines that pulsed with her heartbeat. "You're staring again," she said, without looking up from the holographic displays she was manipulating with thoughts alone. "Can you blame me? You're literally glowing." She smiled, that expression I'd grown to love over these intense weeks. "Sweet talker. But we have bigger problems than your fascination with my new light show." She was right. The displays showed energy readings from across the solar system, and none of them were good. Helix Dominion hadn't given up after their failed assault. Instead, they'd been building something in the asteroid belt, something massive that was drawing power from sources we couldn't identify. "Spectre, any luck analyzing those energy signatures?" I asked, though I could already feel the answer through my connection to the station. "Negative. The patterns do not match any known technology in my databases. However, the quantum resonance suggests dimensional manipulation on a scale I have not previously encountered." "They're building a weapon," Naira said, her enhanced intuition letting her process data faster than any normal human could. "Something designed specifically to counter Helion 3's defenses." "How could they know our defenses well enough to counter them?" "Dr. Stern," she said grimly. "Your grandfather's former partner. He must have had more information than we thought." I stood and walked to the main viewing port, looking out at Earth, hanging in the black sky. From here, it looked so peaceful, unaware of the danger building in the asteroid belt. "We need to know what they're planning. We need intelligence." "I could infiltrate one of their facilities," Naira suggested, already running tactical scenarios in her mind. I could feel them through the strange connection we'd developed, a side effect of both being integrated with the station. "Absolutely not. You're still adapting to the changes. And besides..." I touched her shoulder gently, feeling the warmth that radiated from her transformed skin. "I'm not risking you. Not now." "Then what do you suggest?" Before I could answer, the embryo's containment unit chimed. We both turned to look at it, as we did several times a day now. The embryo had grown considerably, no longer microscopic but visible to the naked eye, about the size of a grape. It pulsed with that ethereal blue light, and sometimes I swear it responded to our presence. "Growth rate has accelerated by 300% in the last 48 hours, Spectre reported. "At this rate, gestation will complete in approximately 6 months, instead of the projected 2 years. "Why the acceleration?" Naira asked, moving to the containment unit with the fluid grace her transformation had given her. "Unknown. However, it appears to be responding to external stimuli, specifically, the presence of both parental templates." I joined Naira at the unit, and as we stood together, the embryo pulsed brighter. Through my connection to the station, I could feel something from it. Not thoughts exactly, but intent, purpose. It knew we were there, and it was growing stronger because of our presence. "It's feeding off our integrated energy," I realized. "The same power that transformed us is accelerating its development." "Is that dangerous?" "Everything about this is dangerous," I admitted. "But I don't think it's harmful. It feels right. Natural."